All heard of this wall that Trump wants to build along the US-Mexico border. Well, one day I'm at work and I hear a song, All for One by the Stone Roses, and it makes me think. There's one line in the song that goes, "If we all join hands, we'll make a wall." So it made me think. If we all joined hands along the US-Mexico border to build Trump's wall, how many of us would it take? So, in order to figure this out, we're going to need to know two pieces of information. How long is the US-Mexico border? I did some research online. It is about 2,000 miles long. Now, this is going to treat it as if it's one smooth line. In reality, there's mountains, there's rivers, there's peaks, there's valleys. If anybody has the data for all that topography, I will gladly redo my calculation. Second thing we need to know is how much space will each person occupy. So, distance, like the US-Mexico border, is usually measured by miles, but people are measured by feet and inches, so which means we're going to have to convert miles to feet and inches. This part is pretty simple. There are 5,280 feet in a mile. So 2,000 times 5,280 equals 10.56 million feet. I'm also going to convert this to inches because we're going to need it for later. So there are 12 inches in a foot. So 12 times 10.56 equals 126.72 million inches. So now we have the distance. Now we need to know how much space each person occupies. Now, doing some research online, I found out the average person is about 5 feet 6 inches tall. Now, your arm span is about the same as your height. So, maximum, one person is going to occupy 5 feet 6 inches. But in reality, we don't hold hands with an arm span. We hold hands at an angle. So now we got to figure that part out. Before I start the calculations, I would really like to thank all my friends who allowed me to measure the angle of their arms when they hold hands. Now, because of a problem like this, it is better to overestimate how many people versus underestimate. Whenever I have to round, I will round down. For example, if I get a number of 11.6, I'm going to round it down to 11 inches just so I end up calculating more than I are originally going to need. When you hold out your hands to join hands, you create a right triangle. Your arm is the hypotenuse. The side along your body and the space between your arm and your body are both legs. We need to figure out the bottom leg. But before we figure out the bottom leg, we need to figure out the hypotenuse, which is the length of your arm. So, I found this diagram online that shows the average length of the arm and leg of the average man, which is 5 foot 9 inches. So I'm going to have to convert the percentages of that and apply it to someone who is 5 foot 6. Since the average human head is 9 inches, first we take 5 foot 9 minus 9 inches. That gives us 5 feet. Now, according to the diagram, the average leg length for a 5 foot 9 man is 32 inches, meaning his arms would be 28 inches. Now we need to calculate the percentage. So, 28 inches divided by 60 inches, which is 5 feet, is 46.67%. Now let's combine that to somebody who is 5 foot 6. So, 5 foot 6 minus 9 inches, that would make it 57 inches. 57 inches times 46.67% is 26.6 inches. I'm rounding down to 26 inches. Now, we also need to figure out how much space the middle part will also occupy. Since we know that arm span equals height, we just have to minus the two lengths of the arm and then from the height, and we will have our middle length. So, 66 inches minus 26.6 times 2 equals 12.8. I'm going to round down to 12. So, everyone who I measured the angle of their arms, regardless of height and body shape, all had their arms at between a 30 to 60 degree angle. Luckily, there is a 30, 60, 90 triangle that has exact ratios that we can use. So, with that triangle, we know that the hypotenuse is 2x, the side opposite from 30 degrees is x, and the side opposite from the 60 degrees is square root of 3x. So, we know that 2x equals 26, so that would make x equal to 13. So, for a 30-degree angle, that would mean the bottom leg is 13 inches. So, since there's one triangle on each side, so that makes it two triangles, so 13 times 2 is 26, plus the middle section of 12 inches, that would make it 38 inches. Now, going back to the previous calculation of how long the U.S.-Mexico border is, at 126.72 million inches, so that divided by 38 inches, we get 3.33 million people. So that would mean if everybody's arm was at a 30-degree angle, we would need 3.33 million. So now let's calculate it as if everybody was making a 60-degree angle with their arms. Since x equals 13 and the side across from the 60-degree angle is square root of 3 times x, that would make 22.52 inches. I'm going to round that down to 22 inches. So, 22 times 2 equals 44, plus 12 equals 56. So, that would mean if everybody had their arms at a 60-degree angle, each person would occupy 56 inches. So, just like how we did with the 30-degree angle, we have to divide now. So, 126.72 million divided by 56, and we would need somewhere around 2.26 million. So, there we have it. If we were all to join hands along the U.S.-Mexico border to make Trump's wall, we would need somewhere between 2.26 million to 3.33 million people to make the wall.